Welcome to the Virtual Parlor Chat at the Morris-Jumel Mansion. My name is Catherine Hughes. I am the director at the Morris-Jumel Mansion, which is the oldest house in Manhattan. We have a really great virtual parlor chat this evening, celebrating today, Juneteenth. We want to wish everyone a happy Juneteenth. And we have with us Athenia Rodney, who is going to talk about the history of Juneteenth. But before that, I'm going to share a little bit of business. First off, I want to let everyone know that you will be able to share your comments or questions on our Q&A. So you can wait on questions till after Athenia finishes, but she's going to tell you a little bit more about how you can participate on the Q&A during the presentation. So I'll leave that to Athenia. We also want to tell you about the upcoming programs here at Morris-Jumel Mansion. We have a free movie in the park, Rio, on June 27th. That begins at dusk. You can sign up for that on our website. You can also sign up for yoga. Our summer series of Yoga in the Park is going to begin on July 9th. So check that out. You can again sign up for that on our website, which is www.morrisjumel.org. The other final event that I want to announce is our George Washington dinner. That is on July 14th, Bastille Day. We want to invite everyone to join us for that. Anyone who is interested can find out more information about it on our website. This is our big fundraising opportunity of the year. So we welcome anyone. Please give us a call if you have any questions or go to the website. So tonight I'm excited because we have a lot of people signed up for the presentation. So there's obviously a lot of enthusiasm to learn more about Juneteenth, which is really awesome. So I want to really introduce Athenia, and for that I'm going to go and look at a little bit more information about her because she has a lot happening. She was born and raised in Brooklyn, and she is the CEO of Emoya Events, a female-owned corporate events logistics planning company. And she also has held several positions in New York City's Brooklyn, where she is currently chair of the Family Advisory Board of United for Brownsville. And she is an advocate and mentor for youth, married couples, and entrepreneurs to achieve their greatest potential. In 2020, Athenia was recognized by the Robin Hood Foundation as a New York Hero recipient for her work with United for Brownsville. Most importantly, though, Athenia says, she is the proud wife and mother of 3 children now residing in Atlanta, Georgia. She's also a psychology graduate and alum of Middlebury College in Vermont. With her passion and love for education, Athenia continues her quest for knowledge by participating in various certification programs to further develop and strengthen her many entrepreneurial and career skill sets. She's got a lot going on, as I said, and she is very busy on a day like today, Juneteenth. She has done a lot of work on the history of Juneteenth, and we're going to be able to enjoy hearing all about that very shortly. So I want to welcome Athenia Rodney to our virtual parlor chat. Welcome, Athenia.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the warm welcome. I always feel like hearing my story is, I'm like, who is that? Like I'm hearing it for the first time. But thank you so much for that warm welcome. Thank you for having me on today. And yes, today is an extremely busy day. I think we've been to at least 4 Juneteenth events so far. So I'm glad to be able to be present with you on this evening. And if you can put the slides up for me, we can get started with the presentation.
Sure. I can do that for you. I also want to thank Presley Rodriguez, who is with us teching our virtual parlor chat. We really appreciate that. And Presley will be looking out for comments and questions during the presentation. So let me share my desktop and get us going with a really wonderful presentation. All right. Where is that? This is your amazing bio. Okay. I will hit present.
So while you're doing that, I will get started as well, just sharing a little bit about, so I am Athenia, the CEO and founder of Juneteenth NYC. It is now a national recognized organization. We are also, well, should I say, I have just recently been nominated as the New York State Director for all of the Juneteenth in the New York City area as well. So part of the reason why I had to go out to a bunch of Juneteenth events was to show my face, to say a couple of words. I feel like a politician, and I am so not a political person. So this is very new for me, but I'm very excited to be in this space and to be able to speak about the history so that we can do what we can to bring people together. So this is my organization, and our pillars are around educating, empowering, and entertainment. Next slide, please. So the beginning part is just a little bit about our organization. So I'll tell you a little bit about that, and then I'll go into the presentation for you. But Juneteenth itself started in 2021, so it is a fairly new holiday. Today we were in front of the Brooklyn Public Library, and a whole host of people kept coming up to the library, and we kept saying, the library is closed, and people were looking at us like, well, why is it closed? And I was like, because it's a national holiday. It's Juneteenth. So it is still something that people are not fully aware of or not cemented in the understanding of what it is. And so Juneteenth is the day that Galveston, Texas, which is one of the last states to find out that they were free, were released from enslavement. So just imagine, think about this, that there were over 3,000 state troopers, military individuals, mostly African Americans, that landed in Galveston, Texas. They had guns and combat, and they were walking through the streets of Galveston, Texas, where this is not like today where we have all of this technology and can get messages across the world in 2.5 seconds. This was in the 1800s. So where there was not a lot of any of these things. So communication about what was happening did not get relayed in a timely fashion. So when they landed there and they shared that those who were enslaved were now free, just imagine seeing that presentation on the streets. They put up signs on church doors that basically let them know that they were free. Next slide, please.
Why? There we go. Oh,
you know
what? I just went too far. So
yeah.
Go back.
No worries. So this is our story. And this is us at the NASDAQ. We had to close the NASDAQ 2 years ago as we were sharing our story about our time and why we do what we do. So our biggest focus, like I said, is about education. When it became a national holiday, my biggest fear was that the holiday would be lost, that the day would be lost, that it would just be another day that people would just take off for a barbecue, and that it wasn't going to be something that was focused on what it was truly intended for, which is to educate the world about all of the things that African Americans had contributed to the United States of America. I feel that being able to do that, we have been utilizing empowerment as that space. So we've been empowering our Black Kings. We do a Black King celebration. We honor 21 men under 7 principles of Kwanzaa. So that's faith, economics, unity work, and such. We empower our, we have fashion shows and designers. So we empower them by doing trainings and workshops and just sharing with them how beautiful they are. People of different, all shapes and sizes, being able to be on stage and being able to be confident about themselves in that space. And then lastly, through our business owners, entrepreneurs who set up vending tables. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we have been able to do in the last 15 years is we have been able to support, encourage, and expand BIPOC business owners. So we've been working with over 800 entrepreneurs in different capacities, as I shared, and those were just some of the tip of the icebergs and the ways that we've been able to work with them. And we've been able to expand their businesses from inception to forefront businesses. And that is a great feat. And that's been more so without the help of the MWBE, which is one of the things that we have been in conversation with the mayoral team on how they can better support minority businesses. Next slide, please. Stay true to my word. One of the things that I feel like it makes it easier for you to be able to help other business owners is to be a business owner or to have had a business of some sort. So our entire advisory board is made up of business owners so that we can pour back into those, and we've had experience to be able to share what to do next to help their business to grow. Next slide, please.
Oh, something is buffering. There we go.
Oh, so this is a video, and we will not go through this video, but we can drop the video in the chat if possible. This is me at Good Morning America. I'm just in the interest of time, just sharing a little bit about why I got started and how I continue to get started, because for me, a lot of it was I really wanted to give up. 10 years ago, before it became a national holiday, I was done. I was kind of like, this is going to be my last year. I'd made it to 10 years. We're done. And that was because there was no support. It was hard to get any media coverage. It was hard to get anyone to buy in, to help financially, to support the organization. So everything was really being paid for between my husband and I, to be able to put together this event every year. And then COVID happened in 2021, and God told me, like, do it virtually, and I did. And we were able to garner 20,000 people online joining us to watch and to hear about Juneteenth, what it is, to learn the different stories about Juneteenth. That definitely gave me hope. And then 2022 came, and we were able to get some funding, which was another big piece. So it's just continued in that space. But every year it is always a challenge, especially with being able to fund our organization and everything that we do. So we're always looking for donations, especially as a 501c nonprofit organization. Next slide, please. So this is just to show a little bit of the types of events, or the events that we do organize. We do a celebration of Black Kings, which I shared. We have our Community Day Festival, which starts off with a parade. This year we had over 2,000 people join us in East New York, Brooklyn, to start up our parade. We had marching bands. We had a whole gamut, a host of things, from dancers and marchers. We had Army individuals who came in and basically showcased what it was like back in the days, in the 1800s, when the military came to Galveston, Texas, to let them know that they were free. Then we have today, this morning, we actually had our live broadcast that we did that went from 9 until to 6 o'clock, and that was really great. Today is also our last day of our Juneteenth crawl, which we partnered with over 150 restaurants, Black restaurant owners, to create prefix meals so that you can go and taste and enjoy their different meals. And then every Thursday, so tomorrow, At 12 o'clock, we have what's called a lunch and learn, where we highlight one of our entrepreneurs and talk about all of the great things that they're doing in the world. Next slide, please. And we don't just do this during this weekend. We do events throughout the year as well, which we call Black 365. So we do things around Black History Month, Women's History Month. We do something called Biz Savvy Artist Academy, which are for different people in different types of artistry. And we actually do that in Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm from now. And we do a Health Awareness Month in October, and then Kwanzaa celebration, which I always call another lost holiday that I hope continues to be elevated. Next slide, please. All right, so in this space, one of the things that I like to always share is to talk about the 4 agreements, and the 4 agreements are what I call the way in order for us to make a safe space, especially when we're talking about conversations like this. We're talking about race relations, things that might feel uncomfortable to different people on how they might present, and we like to make this space comfortable, a comfortable space. So the 4 agreements that I like to share is by Don Miguel Ruiz, and I actually use this in my everyday life and encourage my kids and family members to do the same. And I'm now encouraging you to also do the same, especially in this space. So the first of that is to be impeccable with your word. So speak with integrity. So whenever you are talking or offering anything, to make sure that it's speaking in truth and in love. When you're coming from a space of truth and love, then it is more evident, and then it doesn't feel intrusive or offensive. Next is don't take anything personally. If people most people just don't know. Like I like to say, I'd rather you ask me than the next one, than make an assumption of what you think I'm trying to say, because what you think I'm trying to say may not be what I'm actually saying. And I'm really just wanting to get at the heart of it. So questions for me are always the best way to get at the heart, so that we can have the best understanding of each other and who we are. Everybody grows up in different perspectives. Even twins have different perspectives of how they see things. And last year, that was actually our theme. It was called Kaleidoscope, because everyone even if everyone is looking at the same tree, that same tree is being seen different ways by everybody who's looking at it. So we just need to take that into perspective in how we experience life as well. And then lastly, always do your best. Always have the best intentions when thinking about others and yourself. So take out the self-judgment, take out the self-abuse, take out the regret. Like, yes, we understand slavery happened, it did. And it's about how we move from that now, what we're doing now, what we're putting into place, how we're working together so that we can be better people. Next slide, please. So here's the part where you get to help us create a poem, everyone. So I'm very big on creating an art in every way and form and fashion. And so you, because you are here, you will be our artist in studio. So what we are going to ask of you is, as I'm going through and I'm reading a little bit of history, I would love for you to write down and express your thoughts, emotions by summarizing them in a one-liner and putting them in the Q&A area. What we're going to do is take that, we're going to put it in a Word document, and we're going to read it together at the end as a poem. And just to kind of see where different people, how we make this come together. So I hope that we have a couple of people in this group. We're looking forward to having each and every one of you drop at least one line from what you have heard on today, and that's throughout any part of it. And you can do multiple. You don't have to just do one. So we would like to have, if you hear one thing earlier on and you want to put it in the chat, definitely do. And then if you hear something later on, do it again as well. Next slide, please. So here we are, the March to Juneteenth, June 19th through 1862 to June 19th, 1866. This marks the period of when so much actually was happening around us for a quest for freedom, justice, equality, and the challenges of reforms. And even now we're in a space of reforms when it comes to African American rules, regulations. They're being challenged. And so this is, Juneteenth comes always yearly around June, very timely, I think, where we are, take this time to think about what our role is in everything that has happened and everything that is happening currently and what we can do to make that change. Next slide, please. So the early Americas. In the opening of the 17th century, we had France, we had Spain, we had England. They vied for dominance in North America. Despite being last to arrive on the scene, England ultimately emerged as the most dominant force, laying the foundations for what become now the United States of America. We have the French, who were struggling with foreign conflicts with religion and different settlements that were happening in the St. Lawrence Valley. We had the Spanish that were focused in South America and the Caribbean, which also were having a tough time in their spaces. And then in contrast, the English, despite early setbacks under figures like Sir Humphrey Gilbert and Sir Walter Raleigh, they both established robust settlements from Maine through Georgia. They attracted steady streams of settlers and investments, eventually absorbing the Dutch and the Swedish colonial efforts in the Hudson Valley and Delaware region. Within a century and a half, the British had firmly established 13 thriving colonies along the Atlantic coast, including Massachusetts, New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and of course, Georgia, shaping the course of American history. Next slide, please. So the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation, which is an organization that I am a part of, helps to bring all of the Juneteenth across the nation together. They outlined the 12 fundamental freedoms gained for African Americans during that time. The rights, which included the right for birth, to name their children, to exercise creatively, to choose their own attire, to understand and safeguard their history. So to just think about that time where these things were not available to them. They could not preserve their own history. So just thinking about where we are now, and a lot of people ask the question, is slavery still prevalent today? And it's like the remnants of slavery are still very present. And these are some of the reasons, especially with the fact of Juneteenth being a holiday that is now started to be highlighted, that people were not aware of. I was not aware of it. I did not learn about Juneteenth really until I went to college. And that's when I went into a heavy study and trying to understand and learn more. And every year I go deeper and deeper and I find out more and more information. So to think that our ancestors were not able to understand, to learn, to pass down, or to keep their history, or to marry, to vote, to govern themselves, like all of those things. And that's why I share, especially now, that we need to make sure that we're going out to vote, because that is something that our ancestors died for, and we want to continue their legacy. Next slide, please. So on June 19th, 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed and approved the Chapter 111, an act to secure freedom to all persons within the territories of the United States, marking a pivotal moment in American history. This act abolished slavery and involuntary servitude, which means it denotes a lack of personal liberty and autonomy, meaning they had no control over themselves in all present and future U.S. territories, except as if they were punished by law. And of course, what they were doing is they would create laws of everyday things. It was like, you will be punished by law if you go outside after 8 o'clock. And it was 7:59. Like, there's no way for you to get in the house by 8 o'clock. And they're like, you were outside, so we're just going to arrest you. So rules and things like that. And you also have to remember, during this time, people still couldn't read. People still had to learn how to read. There was still a high literacy issue. So these are, things that we have to think about during this time that were definitely taking effect. Despite the legislative stride, the reality of equality remained distant for African Americans, as highlighted by Lincoln's reminder of all men are created equal on July 4th, 1862, which still excluded African Americans. Additionally, on July 12, 1862, the Emancipation Proclamation faced rejection from border states hesitant to embrace freedom for enslaved people. And another caveat that a lot of people fail to realize is that Texas was not a part of the original colonies. So when the Emancipation Proclamation was created, it was not inclusive of Texas because it was not a part of, it was for the colonies that it was initially created. And it took time for those other neighboring states to sign on to agree to this Emancipation Proclamation. Next slide, please. So in the months following pivotal events in the American Civil War, significant strides were made towards the inclusion of African Americans in combat roles and the broader fight for freedom. On August 4th, 1862, the first United States Colored Combat Troop was formed in Kansas. And it eventually became the most historic military group. Shortly thereafter, on August 25th, 1862, the U.S. War Department initiated a recruitment effort for colored combat troopers, and they were out of the Gullah Geechee territory, which is in the Carolinas. As tensions escalated, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on September 22, 1862, declaring all enslaved individuals within rebellious states forever free as of January 1st, 1863. So that's the date that everybody knows. January 1st, 1863, that everyone was, including African Americans, were to be free. Meanwhile, in November 1862, General George McClellan, despite opposing outright abolitionists, led a Union army to fight the Battle of Antietam, the bloodiest day of the war, before being removed by Lincoln. So basically, he took it upon himself to go against Lincoln's his command in order to allow for military to African Americans to be a part of the military. Next slide, please. So on January 1st, 1863, President Lincoln utilized his war powers to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring the freedom of all enslaved individuals in areas under Confederate control. This landmark decree ensured that those held in bondage within the rebel states will be forever free, with the Union government committed to recognizing and upholding their freedom. While the proclamation did not extend to border states or areas of slave states not in rebellion, the arrival of Union forces often resulted in the immediate liberation of enslaved people. So as you are hearing, as the military went to the different states, that's when they were immediately those who were enslaved were immediately released. This momentous event spurred African Americans to take action, with some forming their own infantry units. Notably, African Americans in New Orleans organized the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Louisiana Native Guard, which later became the 73rd, 74th, and 75th United States Colored Infantry. Again, during this time, a lot of military especially in the African Americans, were just starting to be formed. And a lot of that was because Lincoln realized that African Americans, these men were strong, and that the wars that they were partaking in, they were winning. And he wanted a part of that. he was like, hey, well, can you guys join us? I'd rather you guys be a part of us than to be against us. So in February 1863, Governor John A. Andrew of Massachusetts issued a call for Black soldiers, resulting in over 1,000 enlistments, including Charles Douglas, the son of Frederick Douglass, who became one of the first to join the United States Colored Troopers. Next slide, please. So in the year of 1863, significant events reshaped the landscape of the Civil War and the fight for freedom. Tragically, on May 27th, one of the first African-American officers in the Union Army lost his life during the siege of Port Hudson, and that became a really big thing because one of the things that was happening with all of the militaries that were forming, the biggest issue was that they were not being given equal pay, and they were not getting benefits equal to what their white counterparts were giving. So they were risking their lives just the same, and if not more, and they were getting less. And then when they were returning home, they were returning home to still enslavable conditions. So even though they weren't slaves any longer, they were still in conditions that were very inhumane. Next slide, please. And I think, next slide, one more. Again, yep. Okay, so in 1864, I think I passed one second. So in 1864, President Lincoln demonstrated his commitment to advance the civil rights and equality. On March 13th, he drafted a letter urging Louisiana to grant Black voting rights, signaling his advocacy for political inclusion. In the pivotal months following Lincoln's re-election as president on November 8th, 1964, I think we're on the next slide. Yep, there we go, sir. 1964, significant strides towards freedom and equality continued across the nation. On January 11th, 1865, the Missouri Constitution abolished slavery. On January 16th, 1865, we had Special Field Order number 15, which was promised, which is something that a lot of people are most familiar with as the 40 acres and a mule law to newly freed African Americans. This order was intended to address the immediate needs of free slaves by redistributing confiscated Confederate land and distributing it in South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida to African Americans. The order allocated roughly 400,000 acres of land for settlement by African American families, each receiving up to 40 acres and a mule. Additionally, the Army had surplus mules with their where the whole idea of the mule came. So they ended up giving them the 40 acres and a mule. The promise, however, was short-lived. After President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in 1865, his successor, President Andrew Johnson, came in and was like, nope, we're taking that land back and we're going to give it back to the former owners of it. So we had the effective order was nullified by, it's called Sherman's Special Field Order number 15, which is to nullify that order for the 40 acres and a mule. Freed African Americans who had settled on this land were evicted. So just think about that for a moment. To have African Americans who were tilling land, like this was something that they did. This was a part of their job when they were slaves on the land, right? To make clothes, to make food, to take care of the land, to build, to do all of those things. So once they got this land, they were like, oh, great, we got a good start. We're off to a good start, and we're putting things together. And then they're like, nope, we're taking it back. And all the work that they had put into that land was now gone, and they got nothing for it. Again, this is yet another time where something like that is happening. Next slide, please.
Should I go to?
Oh,
Maybe one more.
Yep. March. So again, one more. One more.
Here we are.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. So in March, so we had the last spring offensive. There was in Richmond, Petersburg, Virginia, where we had the conflict that bankrupted the South and claimed the lives of over 620,000 men, mostly of which were African Americans. We had Lincoln's assassination that happened that shocked the nation and cast shadows over the period of the Reconstruction time period. Where significant Black soldiers who were in war just showed how relevant it was to be connected to Lincoln and how much he had did for them, because a lot of them went to his funeral. We have 1866, which is the first year that Galveston, Texas had celebrated the Freedom Day, commemorating the emancipation of the enslaved people in the state. The celebration echoed the significance of Juneteenth because of all that had happened, which had its first of many anniversaries on June 19, 1866, marking the spread of the commemorative events across America. Concurrently, on June 14th, slavery officially ended in the territories through the negotiation and signing of 4 major treaties with Native American tribes, which a lot of people did not really know. and that they were also a part of this as well. The modern Juneteenth movement symbolizes the ongoing struggle for recognition and equality, which is what you see today, which took root and started to take root in 1994 with a historic gathering in New Orleans, Louisiana, leading to the formation of several national Juneteenth organizations that dedicate themselves to promoting the greater awareness and the celebration of this pivotal moment, which has also led to it becoming a national holiday through signatures during events across the nation. Next slide, please. So a lot of people are like, well, what's the relevance of Juneteenth in New York? Why should we be celebrating it? That's just a holiday for Texas. And I'm always like, no, a lot of people don't know the person who led the troopers there, Major Gordon Granger, was a New Yorker. So this is one of those times, and one of, I think, the only times that I actually claim upstate New York is during this time that he was a New Yorker. Typically, I'm like, that's not a real New Yorker. No, but he was a New Yorker. So the relevance is very relevant because what he had did in being a part of going around to the different neighboring states that were not a part of the original colonies to let them know that they were freed was very significant. And the tidbit that a lot of people don't seem to know, right, is that their goal wasn't even to go to Galveston, Texas. They were actually going to Mexico at the time to fight in a war that was happening down there. And because of bad weather, good old weather, they were rerouted through Texas to go into Mexico from another way. And that's when they landed in Galveston, Texas, and found out that they were still enslaved there. And that was where they thought that that was the last of the towns. And that is why they ended up doing what they did and sharing and parading in the streets and putting up signs and letting people know. So kudos to us being the ones to lead the way yet again. Next slide, please. And this is just some more information, again, about Juneteenth and its relevance to New York. A lot of Black communities, a lot of the armies also came from the New York area because New York was one of the areas that were freer, or should I say freed, before the colonies, the Emancipation Proclamation went into effect. Next slide. This is additional information to share, and I definitely feel free to ask. We can share out this link. I love to share information, but I know in the interest of time, I just want to show what else was happening during this time in the 1800s in the New York area, specifically because of the relevance of people not wanting to or not feeling like it's relevant for us to celebrate Juneteenth. But Juneteenth itself is an American holiday. It's a holiday that is the celebration of the culmination of the entire United States being free from slavery, just like 4th of July when we were separated from our being under rule of English. Next slide, please. And this is just information about General Gordon Granger, and like I said, and him being from Nueva York. Next slide, please. So this is the National Juneteenth Remembrance Foundation. Like I had shared earlier, we do a lot of research and actually have all sorts of things that we could share from our website. We have calendars that we sell that has dates every day of the year that has a significant date of something that has happened in the African American community, something of notoriety to be recognized. So if it's something that you're also interested in, feel free to reach out to our website, Juneteenth NY. We would love to share that as well. Next slide. And this is just information about me and my organization. Again, we've been doing this for 15 years. Like I shared, we do a lot of things to help empower the community and to really I do a lot of talking engagements. This week, I think I've spoken, this is my last of a series of 10 presentations where we have just been talking about the history of Juneteenth and a lot of the untold stories that are missed. And next year, our focus is going to be on the flags, because the flags have been another topic of conversation between what is the Juneteenth flag and why it's red, white, and blue versus the Pan-African flag that is red, black, and green. And I think this is the last slide. So if you haven't gotten a chance already to please share your messages in the chat, your questions, your thoughts about what you've heard on today, so that we can take those and collect them. Okay. And am I passing it back to you to see if you have any?
We'll jump off and get to the responses from people and Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing, and then we're going to jump. Presley is here sharing and collecting. So let me see. I wanted to ask Athenia, before we do that, what do you think is one of the most important parts of Juneteenth for the nation?
So one of the most, say that one more time.
What do you think is one of the most important aspects of Juneteenth for the United States? Like what could Juneteenth do for us as a nation?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, one of the biggest things, I mean, like most holidays, it's really a time of remembrance. And one of the things that I feel like the United States has done poorly is they've created a negative narrative or a limited narrative on what slavery looked like and what that time period was. It's a very skewed view that is more focused on domination and not so much focused on the different stories of rebellion, of redemption, of what else? Of growth. You know, there are a lot of stories of all of the Black Wall Street communities that were created during this time, especially during Reconstruction time, where African Americans were able to build land and to create full communities. And then a lot of them were destroyed either by fires or floods because people, you know, at that time were not happy with where the economy was going. So Juneteenth is really a time for the United States to take hold of that information and to start to share it. I mean, the biggest part, I really think, is creating African American studies so that everyone is as a whole. It's not just something that's taught in historically Black colleges and universities, that it will be something that is taught at all of our schools so that everyone is able to learn about their history. When you go to other countries, they learn so much. They know more about our history here than we do. Those who live here are from here. You know, you can go to France and Ghana and in England and Paris, and they're telling us more stories about what happened here to us than we are even aware of or even know. So that is what Juneteenth means, or what it would be doing in this sphere, is helping it to become a more cemented, educationally based on what African American studies looks like.
Can you also do me a favor and just re-ask folks that request for the poem, so for comments there?
Sure. So as I was going through, anything that stood out to you during this time that I was sharing, any comment, any post, a way that you felt. So you might say, wow, that was really unjust, or wow, or you might say the 13th Amendment or was an amazing tool or something like that. So whatever you want to take from what I shared, and to put some emotion, some thought, to kind of summarize it so that we can create a poem, so to speak, together.
For myself, I've been on that learning journey, about Juneteenth since it became a holiday, maybe a little bit before then. I think what is interesting is how many people, of course, have been celebrating Juneteenth for a very long time. And so it's new to so many people. And I feel like in some ways we're witnessing, we're always witnessing history, but here we are as a nation learning what a new holiday is and how to celebrate it. As a child, you learn what Memorial Day is or something like that. And now children are learning what Juneteenth is in the same way. It is a federal holiday. And it elevates it to become part of common parlance instead of something that people are like, what, they don't know that word. And now we are going to have new generations that have that word on the tip of their tongue, and will be able to, through education, have that knowledge, and one hopes with that knowledge, more understanding about the very complicated history that we in the United States have.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I am very big. My children were with me for most of the events that we did. When at the top of June, we were in Wall Street at the Bowl, and we raised the flag, the Juneteenth flag, with Mayor Adams. We talked about the significance of Wall Street. Wall Street actually got its name because of the slaves that were sold in that space, because it's by the water. That's where they came in. They were put on the what they call the chopping block at that time. They were sold, and that was the original market in those days, before we got to where we are today. African Americans were that market. So to be there and to raise the flag and to have my children there to experience that and to hear them articulate it, even now, a couple of weeks later, they're like, yeah, I know why we do that. Like to your point, so it's about putting that into their minds from now, so that they are able to pass the torch on, and so that they're able to have that to spread it, so that they know what it is. So we're moving up the ranks on that. So I'm excited about that, and look forward to having more children join us each year to learn more about what Juneteenth is, so that they can pass it along.
Yeah. So at the beginning, you talked about not wanting it to be another barbecue, just another barbecue, we should say. So what do you think some of the, most positive ways are that people could celebrate Juneteenth? And this is coming from somebody who has put a question into the Q&A.
Yeah, so one of the ways to celebrate Juneteenth is to find a Juneteenth event that is near you, to support them in their efforts. All of the Juneteenth, especially in the ones in New York, like I shared, we have created a coalition. So a lot of it for us is making sure that it's not just a festival, not just a block party or an event at the park, a layout, but that you are having some kind of educational component, even if it's just at the beginning, where you're doing reading the general order, which is the order that was read to those who were enslaved when the the troopers got into Galveston, Texas, or if it is reading the credo so that people know like what was there. The other is supporting Black businesses and encouraging in those spaces. Like I use this as that, like I shared earlier, that Black empowerment time. Go to a restaurant that you know is Black owned, support them, bring your family, bring your friends, and find a Black business or organization to maybe donate or to contribute to. What resources might you have that you might be able to help them? Because just to hear the stories of what has happened to our ancestors and to know that the goalpost continues to constantly be removed when people are when the African American people and African people are trying to make advancements in life, the goalpost continues to be removed. And what's being evident right now with the changes in DEI, diversity initiatives, and different corporate entities being taken or removed. So that's being challenged. There's an organization called the Girl Fund who is in federal court right now because they created a organization that helped small business owners to get grants so that they can start their businesses and advance their businesses. They're now being sued because they're saying it's unconstitutional because it is the funds are only to be allocated towards African Americans, and it should be open to more individuals instead of just to them. So things like that, where it's like when we see we're getting an inch, we continue to get it taken away from us. So how can you be an ally? How can you be a supporter? How can we come together? And my last thing that I would share is how do we stop the internal hate that we have with each other within the African American community? That is my biggest thing of how we're able to encourage each other to work together more and not just be about self, but how can we support each other's organizations? How can we grow together? And a lot of that, as I was sharing for my theme for next year, is the reason why we're going into that theme, because it's a separatism. There are people who believe the Juneteenth flag, which is focused primarily in talking about what happened to African Americans in the United States, and the Pan-African flag, which is the flag that represents Africa and that all people came from Africa. And there's a divide where people are like, no, I'm not the Pan-African flag. They don't think African does not pertain to me. And it's like, no, but you were an ancestor from someone who came from Africa. So to say that you only want to focus on one part of that history is to kind of dismiss what happened before slavery, or the story of slavery here in the United States.
Well, and I would also add that, I mean, for us to ignore any parts of our history really leaves holes, in who we are. And so all of us, we hope, can really embrace learning about all of them. So we have a few minutes. I wanted to request once more a final thoughts from folks out in the audience. Any emotional responses, anything like that, so that we can put those together. And then I think Presley is going to put them together into one document. Athenia, shall she read it, or can she email it to you and you can read it?
If she can read it, that would be great. Because emailing probably will take the whole 5 minutes before I got it. I get it.
Okay. Then why don't we pull those last thoughts together, folks? I'm going to just give you one more second to throw those out. And then, right, we have a few more coming in. And then I'm going to ask if Presley, if you don't mind, reading those as they have come in. And that is our poem for the evening. So let's see, we've got more people throwing something in. So why don't we say from this moment, just so that we can end at 8 o'clock, we will take those that have been submitted, and Presley, you go right ahead.
Give me 1 second to pull these last ones. Okay.
I'm excited to listen.
All right, here we go. Here is our poem. Thank you, everybody, for submitting your thoughts. Okay, so here we go. Injustice to one is injustice to all. White settler colonialism is terrorism. It is important for the youth to know their history in order to build on their future. Learning something new about our history sparks creativity, knowledge, and a newfound freedom. Humanity will continue to live through justice of equality for all.
Hey.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to give you the last moments of the virtual parlor chat to wrap us up, Athenia.
Well, thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to be here. Like I shared, if you want to continue to support us, we are a 501c3 organization, so any donations or contributions will be tax deductible. You can go to our website, which is Juneteenth NY.com, and or follow us on our social media, which is Juneteenth NY on Instagram and Juneteenth New York on Facebook. We have videos also on our YouTube page, which we do lunch and learns, like I shared earlier, every Thursday. Tomorrow is our next one from 12 to 1. And if you want to learn just anything else about us, we can be found. You can Google search us. You can Google search my name, Athenia Rodney, and I'm sure a lot of information will come up as we have been in the space of writing and co-creating a lot of information about the history of Juneteenth, and look forward to next year and being able to join us in our celebrations.
Thank you, Athenia. We will tell people this is going to be on our YouTube channel. It's been recorded so that we can share all of this information. It will be linked in our to our website. So please do share with your friends, and you can look back on any of this if you want further information. So thank you very much, Athenia, for joining us. Thank you, Presley, for teching us and sharing the poem. And thank you all for joining us. We appreciate your input. Happy Juneteenth, everyone.